Hello, welcome to our channel, Top Random Trendy. Do you know what is per capita GDP? GDP is a financial metric that breaks down a country's economic output per person and is calculated by dividing the GDP of a nation by its population. At its most basic interpretation, per capita GDP shows how much economic production value can be attributed to each citizen. Usually, small countries, rich countries, and more developed industrial countries tend to have the highest per capita GDP. According to Global Finance magazine, there are the top 10 richest countries in the world that have strong GDPs. In this video, we are going to discuss them. So let's start the video. Number 10. San Marino. GDP per capita, $72,070. The economy of San Marino is a developed free market economy focused on industries such as tourism, banking, and the manufacture of ceramics, clothing, fabrics, furniture, paints, spirits, tiles, and wine. Taken together, the manufacturing and financial sector make up more than half of the national GDP. The primary sector contribution to the GDP of the country is marginal, with the main agricultural products being wine and cheeses. In addition, San Marino sells collectible postage stamps to philatelists. Number 9. Brunei Darussalam. GDP per capita, $74,196. Brunei is the third largest oil producer in Southeast Asia, averaging about 180,000 barrels per day, 29,000 cubic meters per day. It also is the ninth largest producer of liquefied natural gas in the world. The gross domestic product, GDP, in Brunei was worth $14.01 billion in 2021, according to official data from the World Bank. The GDP value of Brunei represents 0.01% of the world economy. The economy of Brunei, a small and wealthy country, is a mixture of foreign and domestic entrepreneurship, government regulation and welfare measures, and village traditions. It is almost entirely supported by exports of crude oil and natural gas, with revenues from the petroleum sector accounting for over half of the GDP. Number 8. United States. GDP per capita, $75,180. The United States is a highly developed mixed market economy and has the world's largest nominal GDP and net wealth. It has the second largest purchasing power parity, PPP, behind China. It has the world's seventh highest per capita GDP, nominal, and the eighth highest per capita GDP, PPP, as of 2022. The U.S. share of the global economy is 15.78% in PPP terms in 2022. The United States has the most technologically powerful and innovative economy in the world. Its firms are at or near the forefront of technological advances, especially in artificial intelligence, computers, pharmaceuticals, and medical, aerospace, and military equipment. The US dollar is the currency most used in international transactions and is the world's foremost reserve currency, backed by its economy, stable government, and military, its role as the reference standard for the petrodollar system, and its linked eurodollar and large US treasuries market. Several countries use it as their official currency and in others, it is the de facto currency. The largest U.S. trading partners are China, the European Union, Canada, Mexico, India, Japan, South Korea, the United Kingdom, and Taiwan. The U.S. is the world's largest importer and second largest exporter. It has free trade agreements with several countries, including the USMCA, Australia, South Korea, Switzerland, Israel, and several others that are in effect or under negotiation. Number 7. United Arab Emirates. GDP per capita, $77,272. The United Arab Emirates economy is also becoming increasingly diversified. Outside the traditionally dominant hydrocarbon sector, tourism and construction, as well as trade and finance, are major industries. Agriculture, fishing, and trading pearls, these used to be the economic mainstays of this Persian Gulf nation. Then oil was discovered in the 1950s and everything changed. Today, its highly cosmopolitan population enjoys considerable wealth. Traditional Islamic architecture mixes with glitzy shopping centers, and workers come from all over the world lured by tax-free salaries and year-round sunshine. Number 6. Norway. GDP per capita, $78,128. The economy of Norway is a highly developed mixed economy with state ownership in strategic areas. Although sensitive to global business cycles, the economy of Norway has shown robust growth since the start of the industrial era. The country has a very high standard of living compared with other European countries, and a strongly integrated welfare system. Norway's modern manufacturing and welfare system rely on a financial reserve produced by the exploitation of natural resources, particularly North Sea oil. Number 5. Switzerland. GDP per capita, $84,469. The economy of Switzerland is one of the world's most advanced and highly developed free market economies. The service sector has come to play a significant economic role, particularly in the Swiss banking industry and tourism. The economy of Switzerland ranked first in the world since the 2015 Global Innovation Index and third in the 2020 Global Competitiveness Report. According to United Nations data for 2016, Switzerland is the third richest landlocked country in the world after Liechtenstein and Luxembourg. Together with the latter and Norway, they are the only 3 countries in the world with a GDP per capita, nominal, above $70,000 that are neither island nations nor mini-states. Number 4. Qatar. GDP per capita, $113,675. Despite the recent surge, oil prices have in general suffered from a steady and sometimes dramatic decline since the mid-2010s. The per capita GDP of a Qatari citizen was over $143,222 in 2014. It was $97,846 a year later, and to this day it remains closer to this level than to its highs. Still, the country's oil, gas and petrochemical reserves are so large, and its population so small, just 2.8 million, that this marvel of ultramodern architecture, luxury shopping malls, and fine cuisine has managed to top the list of the world's richest nations for 20 years. Even so, the economy has shown a certain resilience. It contracted by a relatively modest 3.5% in 2020, has grown roughly 1.5% in 2021, and is now projected to rebound to 3.4% amid a rise in gas and oil revenues and the boost from hosting the 2022 World Cup, which will add $1.7 billion to the economy and bring 1.2 million visitors to the country. Number 3. Ireland. GDP per capita, $131,034. Until recently, Ireland seemed unstoppable. While the rest of Europe was facing all sorts of uncertainties, Brexit, trade tensions with the US, and refugee and migrant crises to name a few, the Irish economy was humming along. In 2019, when the Eurozone grew by only 1.5%, it expanded by over 4.9%, the fastest growing country in the bloc. It would only be normal to think that COVID changed that, right? But Ireland defied all expectations once again. Its GDP grew by 5.8% in 2020, and by more than twice that, meaning an astounding 13%, in 2021. Forecasts for 2022 are somewhat more conservative, standing at about 5.2%, although most nations can only dream of achieving such a level of growth. Number 2. Singapore. GDP per capita, $131,426. Singapore is an affluent fiscal haven where capital gains and dividends are tax-free. But how did Singapore become so prosperous? When the city-state became independent in 1965, one half of its population was illiterate. With virtually no natural resources, Singapore pulled itself up by its bootstraps through hard work and smart policy, becoming one of the most business-friendly places in the world. Today, Singapore is a thriving trade, manufacturing, and financial hub. Most importantly, 98% of the adult population is now literate. That is not as saying that it has been immune from the effects of the global downturn. In 2020, the economy plummeted a record 5.4%, knocking the country into recession for the first time in more than a decade. That decline, however, did not last long. In 2021, the GDP bounced back to 7.6%, while this year's growth should reach about 4%. Number 1. Luxembourg. GDP per capita, $141,587. You can visit Luxembourg for its castles and beautiful countryside, its cultural festivals, or its gastronomic specialties. It would a pity though, situated at the very heart of Europe, this nation of about 630,000 has plenty to offer, both to its tourists and its citizens. Luxembourg uses a large share of its wealth to deliver better housing, healthcare, and education to its people, who by far enjoy the highest standard of living in the Eurozone. Still, Luxembourg has weathered the pandemic better than most of its European neighbors. As a result, in 2021 the Grand Duchy's GDP rebounded from -1.7% in 2020 to 6.8%. Then again, the country topped the $100,000 mark in per capita GDP in 2014 and has never looked back ever since. That's all about the top 10 richest countries in the world by gross per capita. Thank you so much for watching this video till end. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.